Holmes gets a block from Richardson in the backfield. 15, 10, 5, juking right, touchdown!
All right, thanks again for joining us for another mock draft today. Today, one of our subscribers, Jordan Studevin, wanted us to do a mock draft on the Los Angeles Chargers, so that is who we'll be drafting for today. It will be a mock draft of just rounds 1 through 3. And just as a reminder, there are no trades in this draft. It is just how the draft is currently set up. So we'll be picking at pick 6 for the LA Chargers. And I know there's a lot of speculation of them wanting to trade up to get a quarterback of the future that they want. And so pretty much the consensus is if the Dolphins do get ahead of them still and draft a quarterback, they're pretty much going to take the next best option. So if the Dolphins draft Tua, they'll go Herbert. If the Dolphins draft Herbert, they'll go Tua. And so I think it'll be pretty hard for them to get ahead of the Dolphins just because the Dolphins do have a lot more draft capital to go ahead and move up if that is the case. But in this example or this mock draft, we don't have any trades, so we'll just go ahead and pick at pick 6, and whatever the mock draft gives us is how we'll base our draft. So let's go ahead and get started here. And so perfect. So as expected, so the Miami Dolphins did draft Tua, and so that leaves us with a quarterback, Justin Herbert. I do like Justin Herbert as a fit for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think that he would be a great fit in their scheme with Anthony Lynn. They have great caliber wide receivers and Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. They have Hunter Henry, a stud and tight end. They have Austin Eckler as a running back position. So their offense is pretty stacked. They just need a competent quarterback to step in and play the position. Phillip Rivers hasn't been able to get the job done the past couple of years. And so now with a higher caliber quarterback coming to step in, a younger, to be able to step up, I think will be perfect for them. And so we're going to take Justin Herbert here with our first pick at pick 6. I think that's what we'll actually see in the actual draft. I do believe the Dolphins will take Tua, and so I do believe that the Chargers will draft Justin Herbert. And so I feel comfortable with this mock draft as we're going because I think this is pretty realistic. I like to do my mock drafts as realistic as possible. It's just hard whenever we don't have any trades available to go ahead and do it. So I'm just making the trades as realistic as possible as I can with the current mock draft simulator that I'm working with through NFL Draft Network or the Draft Network. And so we're up here again in round 2 at pick 37. So we've addressed the quarterback need. Now we need to take a look at offensive tackle and cornerback on defense. So the cornerback position is a pretty deep class, so we're not going to go ahead and draft one this early unless they see a guy that they really, really like, they want to go ahead and get. It's pretty deep for me, and there's some late round cornerbacks that I like. So right now we'll just do the offensive tackle position. So we're looking at Ezra Cleveland, Austin Jackson, Lucas Niang. So we're going to do it here. Just out of curiosity, we will check the cornerback position. So we have Jalen Johnson, Noah Igbinoghene, AJ Terrell, Trevon Diggs. So these guys should be down here, should be available later in the draft around round 3. And we are early there, and so I think we'll be able to pick them up there. So unless they really, really love Jalen Johnson to go ahead and grab him here, I necessarily don't. I do like Jalen Johnson, but I think we do need to protect our new quarterback, Justin Herbert, as best as we can. I think if you don't have a starting, a good offensive tackle, you're not going to be able to do well. I mean, we look at some of the teams last year. The Browns, Baker Mayfield didn't have a very good line. Kyler Murray for the Cardinals didn't have a very good offensive line. The Dolphins didn't have a very good offensive line. And that struggles. They're not able to be as productive on offense as they'd like to be. And so I think that the offensive line is a very crucial position, especially in the offensive tackle. So we're going to go ahead and look here at Cleveland or Jackson. So with Ezra Cleveland, projects as a developmental offensive tackle prospect in the NFL. He's got the movement skills to eventually become a starter, but as you see, is currently too raw to offer consideration for early playing time. Cleveland needs to focus on gaining functional strength and improving his framing of blocks and ability to finish. His movement skills offer promise, but the test will be whether or not he's able to maintain that mobility once he's stacked extra muscle on his frame. So nothing too really big there coming off the page for Cleveland. Let's look at Austin Jackson. Is a promising offensive tackle prospect who has all the physical tools to develop into a quality starter, but there's significant improvement needed in his fundamentals before he's ready to fill such a role. Jackson's footwork, hand placement, weight distribution, and framing of blocks are all currently inconsistent, and early reps are likely to yield irregular and inconsistent results. Jackson is likely best in zone-heavy rushing offenses where his mobility can win spacing at the point of attack. So none of these offensive tackles really jump off the page for us. So because of that, I'm not really sure I like any of those options here at this point. When we look at the cornerback position, they do have the high-flying Kansas City Chiefs offense in their division. The Raiders are getting better. The Broncos are getting better. They're likely to draft high-caliber wide receivers, so we're going to need a cornerback to step up the game. So I know I did that whole spiel on offensive tackle, but I didn't really like any of those options, and cornerback position is a need here. And so we're going to go ahead and draft Jalen Johnson here and see what kind of offensive tackles are left for us later on in the draft. Just those guys were pretty much developmental starters and nothing coming really off the page screaming at your pick. And so to get a high caliber corner or a developmental starter and just in round 2, after thinking about it, I'll go a more starter in round 2. Once you get to round 3 and on is more where I like to look at the developmental players. But rounds 1 and 2, I like to see the most ready, NFL-ready players, and so I feel comfortable at going at the cornerback position instead of the offensive tackle position. But now here in round 3, we're able to go ahead and look at the offensive tackle position with Matthew Peart and Charles here. So let's go ahead and look at their draft summaries. So Matt Peart predicts favorably as a developmental star at the NFL level. It's easy to appreciate Peart's easy movement skills as a big man. He's a long and lean lineman with smooth feet and very good range, working through the second level or on the perimeter as a blocker. There's an incubation period needed for the jump to NFL, and some teams may view him as an offensive guard. But no matter where he plays, he'll need to be coached up on his hand placement and weight distribution. So I'm okay with taking a developmental talent here at this point in the draft. In round 3, not everyone's going to be NFL ready right off the bat. I do like spending my higher picks on those players though. And so right here, I'm comfortable taking the offensive tackle, Matthew Peart, as a developmental player. And so we're going to draft him here in our round 3 pick. And I think overall, just as a franchise, and especially when you're kind of rebuilding, I wouldn't say they're necessarily rebuilding because they do have a fantastic defense, fantastic offense. On paper, they are one of the best teams in the NFL. They have just not been able to put it together on the field. And so I think with some of these picks that we're able to do, I think we'll be able to help them. Quarterback play needs to improve, and I think it will improve with Justin Herbert. So let's go ahead and take a look at the picks that we're able to do. The team needs, we did quarterback, offensive tackle, quarterback. So with our first 3 picks of the first rounds, we're able to address all of those. We got our quarterback, franchise quarterback of the future in Justin Herbert. That will definitely help with ticket sales. They're opening up a new stadium this season. And so they're going to need to draw in crowds of fans. They really haven't had the biggest fan impact the last couple of years. And so going into a new stadium, they need star power. And so Justin Herbert definitely adds that to them. And then a cornerback with Jalen Johnson to be able to help cover on the back end. You got Durham James. You got Jalen Johnson back there now to go ahead and, especially with the Kansas City Chiefs, with guys like Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, you need a good defensive group to help contain them, especially Patrick Mahomes, as well as the Broncos and the Raiders. The Broncos, I think, are a lot better than we think, and they're only going to get better once Drew Lock gets more reps with those wide receivers, as well as the Raiders with wide receivers. Both of them are looking at like CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs. Either of those players could go to either of those teams, and so we need a good defensive backfield to help out with that. And as well as securing up the offensive tackle position in Matthew Peart, we have a good developmental starter here that we can go ahead and get reps in and get work in to hopefully contribute to the offensive line and the overall production of our quarterback protection and our rushing attack with Austin Eckler. And there you have it. That is our 3-round mock draft of the Los Angeles Chargers.